everyone, how's it going? So one of the most common questions that I get from you guys is, what do I do next? Now, this could be in the context of what do I do after school, or what do I do after my degree, or what do I do after my master's, what jobs can I do? What should I do next? So because of that, today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the concept of what is next. And I think this is especially important with everything that's going on with the pandemic and the virus and all of these things that are changing, and the concept of what we thought was once one way is no longer. So let's just put the whole COVID-19 thing aside for a moment. We'll come back to that shortly. Now, I originally wanted to call this video How to Decide What to Do After School or Uni. And the reason for this is because I know that a lot of you guys watching this are students. So you may have found yourself, or you may be finding yourself right now, in a situation where you're asking, well, what's the next logical thing for me to do? Because education sometimes feels like this conveyor belt where, you go to school and you do your GCSEs. Well, this is in the UK, by the way, but just apply what I'm saying to whichever part of the world you are in now. But in the UK, you go to school, you do your GCSEs, then you do your A-levels, then you go to university, then you may do a master's, then you may get a job, or any other variation of that. But that becomes incredibly difficult, not only in choosing what the next step is in terms of, okay, so do I even want to go to university? Do I want to get a job? Do I want to do an apprenticeship? What do I want to do? But there are also loads of choices you have to make within those. So if you have decided to go to university, how do I pick what course is right for me? If you've decided to do a master's, how do I pick which master's is right for me? And you know what's funny? When I was going through this process myself, I always imagined that there would be a point, like a singular point that I would reach where I would think, okay, I don't have to keep looking for the next thing now. I'm there. I'm where I was always heading. Like, I've made it now. I can stop and just cruise and just get on with things. But then what I realised through my own personal experience is that not only does that feeling not really go away, even when you stop being a student, you're always going to have this thing of, okay, so I've got this now, what's next? But also, assuming that you're one of those meticulous people who makes these really detailed plans of how every step is going to go, and you genuinely follow it very, very specifically, life still likes to throw in certain curveballs like this pandemic, which kind of have the capacity to completely knock you off course and change the direction that you were planning to follow, whether you actually want to or not. So I thought in this video, I want to give you something a bit more useful than just an answer to a question, but I want to give you almost a formula on how to figure out what to do next, or how to figure out what the next step is yourself without having to directly ask an external party. And this is a little process that I've sort of put together, and it's definitely been helpful for me personally when I've used it in helping me kind of get a bit more clarity. I might not necessarily come out with it with a concrete answer, but I always come out of it a little more clear than what I was at the beginning. And I'm going to get into that fully in a moment, but I do also want to say that I have recently started a Redbubble shop, and I have got a bunch of my art designs. As you can see, I've got 2 of them right behind me there. I've got them all on this shop on a bunch of new items, so if you want to go and grab something for yourself that's a little bit different, a little bit cool, or you want to grab a gift for somebody, then I will leave a link to that below. Alright, so to get into this formula, I first thought about the kind of people who may be asking such questions, and I've managed to sort of roughly narrow it down into 2 categories of people. The first category is the kind of person who may say, well, I have somewhat of an idea what I want to do, but I'm not sure and I'm a bit lost and I don't know if I'm making the right decision. And the second group of people are the kind of people who are like, I have absolutely no idea what to do or where to start, or how to even start thinking about it. But actually, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, I've noticed that in both groups, it's not necessarily that people don't know what they want to do. It's more the case that they may have somewhat of an idea of what they want to do, but they don't think it's feasible, or they don't think it's doable, or they don't think that they can achieve it. And because of all of that, their brain kind of just starts putting ideas to the side and puts them in this state of just confusion and really, really not knowing where to turn. To put it simply, and if this applies to you, it may simply be the case that you may know why you want to do something, but you don't know the what or the how. So to give you an example, you may know that the reason you want to go to university, like the why, is to get a degree because you want the experience, because you want to learn something, because you want to work on your CV, or any of those reasons. But the what, as in what course, and the how, as in how am I going to get there, those may be the things that are stopping you, or at least hindering you in some way. Now, I've spoken about my own experience of being stuck in those situations numerous times, and I've been making videos on this channel for 4 years now, and a lot of those videos have been videos where I've been documenting my journey. So if you do want to see some of those ups and downs and some of those feeling of stuckness, then have a look through some of my older videos, just so you kind of get the idea that I too am one of the people who goes through them. And it sucks, I know. So let's get on to the process that I mentioned, and I'm firstly going to start off with the group of people who kind of have an idea of what they want to do, but they're not sure. So the first practical step or advice that I can give is to simply write down all of the things that you do know. For example, you may sort of know that you want to go and do a degree in something related to science. Good. That's a good starting point, because already you have got 2 things down. The second step is to ask, why do I want to do this thing? And guys, this is a really, really crucial time to be perfectly honest with yourself. And the reason why I bring this up is because even when we're not planning on doing this, sometimes we're not fully honest with ourselves, because the answer we may have to the why may not be a, I don't know, like praised answer. It might be something a little bit unsavory. It might be something that people may judge or look down on, or something that we ourselves don't want to face. I mean, let me give you an example. Let's say you think to yourself, well, I want to go and do engineering at university. Now, in the second exercise of you writing down all of the reasons as to why, you may say something like, oh, well, because I'll be able to help people, because I'll be able to build things, because it'll be really interesting to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm not saying those aren't valid reasons, they are, but think about some of the reasons why that you may not be quite so proud of writing down. So you may say, well, if I become an engineer, I might win the approval of my friends or peers. Or you can say that my family members will be impressed, or society will be impressed by me. Or you can write things down as, well, I think it's a career path that might earn me a lot of money, or that I really want to prove to people that this is something I can do. Do you see what I mean about the differences? Is that those reasons are still within you deep down, whether you choose to be honest with yourself and face them head on or not. And this is a crucial point of this exercise, is to just write those things down, even if it's something ridiculous. Like, let's say you were 6 years old and somebody made fun of you for being stupid, and now you want to go and do a certain course to kind of, at the back of your mind, prove them wrong, or something like that. Even if it's something that may seem to you really small and really petty, write it down. Because knowing yourself in the process will be able to help you so much more in deciding what you go on and do next. Step number 3, and this is kind of like the opposite of step number 2, and it's to write down all of the reasons why you don't want to do that thing. And again, honesty with yourself is absolutely crucial. And one thing I will say here is to try and fight the temptation to be like, well, there is no reason why I don't want to do this. I absolutely want to do this. I mean, if that were the case, then you wouldn't be feeling that level of stuckness, therefore this video might not apply to you at all. But to go back to the engineering example, you might say, okay, well, these are all of my reasons for wanting to do it. Why don't I want to do engineering? And some really honest answers could be, you know, I think it's going to be a difficult course, and I would rather spend more time with friends and playing video games than spending all of my evenings trying to study this. Although it might be a really fun course to study, I'm not really sure if I want to do the job that you go on and do after you're studying. Any of those reasons. Think about why you do want to do something for step 2, and think about all of the reasons why you don't want to do that thing for step 3. And write everything down, by the way. Write all of this down. Now, number 4 is, once you've written everything down, is to kind of do a cross-analysis. Look through everything and see if there's a part of you that feels a little different, if something is jolted, if you all of a sudden do feel swayed to one way compared to the other. And I say this because this has happened to me in the past, that I will do all of this. I will think about the pros and the cons and the reasons why I want to do something and why I don't want to do something. And by the end of the exercise, I will go, do you know what, this thing that I thought I really wanted to do, actually, I don't want to do that. Turns out, this is the thing that I want to do. So let me give you an example with this. Let's say that one of the reasons why you said you want to go and study something like engineering is because you like maths. Now, you may do this exercise and go, actually, I want to do something with maths, but it might not necessarily be to do with engineering. Maybe the only reason I wanted to do engineering is because people encourage me to go and do it, whereas I've realised through this that what really matters to me is doing maths. And that might be able to make the air a little bit clearer for you. and help you take the next step towards the thing that you really want. I would say step 4 is probably the most important, but also the most difficult. So if you were to spend a good chunk of time through this process, I would say to spend it on this step. Now the next step is number 5, and this is the point where you may have more of a solid idea of what you want to do next. You don't have to be 100% sure, but you may feel a bit more, I guess, comfortable with knowing kind of the direction you want to take. Let's say you've narrowed down the courses you want to study from, I don't know, like hundreds to a handful. Now the next step here is to write down everything that you have to do in order to go towards that thing. So let's say you want to apply to a master's, you would get a piece of paper and write down, okay, so for a master's, I will need to find a way to get funding. I will need to make sure I have the right grades. I will need work experience. I will need references. And in this process, don't get hung up on what you do and don't have. Literally write down what you need to have. It doesn't matter if you have it or not, because the next step will be to kind of go through these and see how you can get them. But all of that aside, in step 5 is to literally write down everything that you need. And then it's number 6, and again, this is yet another crucial point. This is the how step. Once you have made it clear what you want to do, once you have an idea of the kind of things that you need in order to do that thing, the next step is figuring out the how of you're going to do those things that you need to be able to get to the thing that you want. So, let's take this example. Let's say that you have decided to go and do a master's. You've picked out of like all of the ones that you're looking at. Let's say you've picked one that you definitely want to do. Now you can go through the things that you need. So you may need, I don't know, like maybe the cost of the course is £10,000. And let's say you need a set amount of work experience. And let's say you need a reference. So now that you know the things that you need, in this step you can say, okay, so how? How am I going to get 10,000? Maybe I can ask my family to help me. Maybe I can look for scholarships. Maybe I can look for funding. Maybe I can apply to student finance. Maybe I will take a year out to get a part-time job, save money, and then go and do it next year. So that's the how of that thing. Then you will have a look at the next thing. So the next thing will be work experience. Okay, similar process. Do I have any friends or family who work in this field that allow me to shadow them for the day and see what it's like? Is there a resource, for example, YouTube or a book, or I don't know, like maybe speaking to somebody on the phone who works in this field and who will be able to answer some of my questions? And just do things that way. Break everything down into little steps and it will all just seem a lot more manageable. And guys, you will be so surprised how few people would actually sit and do this exercise. Because, you know, nothing that I'm saying to you is new. This isn't any sort of like revolutionary information that I'm just sharing with you. The whole art of this, the whole, I guess, process of figuring it out is to just put the time and effort in. I know, it's boring, it's hard, it can be stressful to sit and think about your future or the next step, but just taking, I don't know, an hour or so of your day to do this will really, really help you. And everything that I've mentioned so far applies to any situation, pandemic or non-pandemic. The only difference is that the actions that you will take in each step will be different because of the current situation we're in now. But that's okay, because now that you have this process, you will just start to ask different questions. So in your how, let's say you want to get work experience, you can think, okay, well, I need to get work experience in a pandemic. How can I go about doing that? Then your answers will start to change. For example, let's say you want to get experience in a certain field. Instead of arranging to go and speak to somebody one-to-one, you can ask them if you can have a Zoom call instead and get work experience that way. Or, you know, get creative with the ideas. The internet right now is your best friend more than any other time, so definitely use it as an asset. Now, that's the bulk of the process for the people who kind of sort of have an idea. So let's just address the other group of people who have absolutely no idea what they want to do next. And I will say, in kind of a way, this is really exciting and a very fun process to do, because when you have no idea at all what you want to do, it's more of a game of exploring and discovering and trying new things. So try and look at it that way, as opposed to being in a kind of like a panicked mindset of, oh my god, I have absolutely no idea, I don't know what to do. So try and look at it as more of like a fun and enjoyable journey, I guess. Easier said than done, I know. But again, I have a set of practical steps for you. So, step number 1. To begin with, when you have absolutely no idea, get a piece of paper and write down the opposite. Write down everything that you don't want to do. Now, some of these may be really obvious. Doesn't matter. Write them down anyway. It could be as simple as this. It could be that you can say to yourself, well, I don't play an instrument, so I'm going to write down that I don't want to do anything with music. Or it could be that, well, you know, I did an A-level in maths, but actually I didn't enjoy it very much, so I'm going to just put on the list that I don't want to do anything that is really, really hardcore mathsy or sciencey or whatever. Or, for example, you can say, and you know what, you don't need to know what specific subject you want to apply for, but you could think to yourself that, you know what, I'm not a very practical person, so I don't want to apply to courses like that have lab work where I have to do practical things, or that have elements of building things. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to do something that's a bit more like theory based. So again, write down on your list the things that you don't want to do. Now, step number 2, and this is a step that kind of automatically happens as you start doing number 1, I think, is once you have eliminated a bunch of the things that you know for certain you don't want to do, ideas will start popping in your head about, okay, so if I know that I don't want to do anything with maths, and I know that I don't want to do anything that's hands-on and practical, and I know that I don't want to do anything with music, let me think. Well, I kind of enjoy books, so maybe literature, maybe writing, maybe speaking, maybe something along those lines, maybe something arty. And these ideas will start formulating in your head, and as soon as they do, it doesn't matter like how you genuinely perceive them in the moment, just write them down. And write them down quickly, because what could happen is you could go, oh, I like doing English literature and becoming a writer, that could work. And then your brain will start giving you all the reasons why you can't do it. So before that starts, literally just write it all down. And then step number 3. Congratulations, you have now joined the group of people who kind of sort of have an idea what they want to do next. In which case you can go back to the start of the video and go through the exact same process that I mentioned there. As I said, I know that this can be difficult and I know that it can be time consuming, but pandemic aside, or whatever stage of life you seem to be at the moment, if you're thinking about what to do next, give this process a try. Like, it may be that tiny next step in order for you to get a little bit more clarity, and you know what, that's all that matters, as long as you're moving forward even by an inch. And actually, I want to finish this video off by leaving you all with a book that I absolutely loved, and it really, really helped me in trying to make certain decisions in my life. And it's a book called The Defining Decade, like Your 20s, The Defining Decade by Meg Jay. And I'll put a picture of it here so you can have a look. But this book was incredible, and I would say for anybody who is in their 20s, even if you're like 15 to 35, I would say still it's worth a read. And that's everything that I wanted to share with you today. I really hope that this has been helpful and that you've gotten something out of this. As I mentioned earlier, do go and check out my Redbubble store and see if there's anything in there that may bring a smile to your face. So, I hope you have a lovely day, and until next time, take care, and I'll see you later.